Hello, folks, and welcome to the next installment in the Withered Arm playlist. We are doing chapters 7 and 8 today. Now, there's only 9 chapters in this story, and as I'm sure you've noticed, they're not hugely long chapters either. I thought for completely arbitrary reasons that I would save chapter 9 to be its own video, sort of as I don't know, for some reason I thought the conclusion of the story, like the last bit, should sort of stand on its own. I don't know why I've got that idea in my mind, but I do. So that's what I'm gonna do. Now, just before we get going, there has been a dog barking outside in the neighborhood today. So if we hear that, we're just gonna integrate it into the atmosphere of the story, because obviously I can't control what someone else's dog is or is not doing, and who knows, maybe the dog found his friends, found a squirrel, is very, very happy, and who are we to deny a dog the joy of, say, chasing a squirrel or whatever the dog is up to. So the Withered Arm, where we left off, is Gertrude has just been told what ultimately the cure for her condition is going to be, and she's I get the impression she's kind of weirded out by it, which, I mean, you would be, wouldn't you? So we are just going to head straight on into chapter 7. It's called A Ride. The communication sank deep into Gertrude's mind. Her nature was rather a timid one, and probably of all the remedies that the white wizard, Sauron or Saruman? Saruman, I think. Not the same guy, but still. That's where my mind went. Could have suggested, there was not one which would have filled her with so much aversion as this, not to speak of the immense obstacles in the way of its adoption. Yeah, so I'm kind of with Gertrude on this one. If the cure for my illness was to touch the recently hanged corpse, the now corpse of a recently hanged man, I don't know. Not only is that just a weird thing to set out to do, I don't even know how I would accomplish it. Like, my country doesn't even do the death penalty anymore. And towards the end, were we still hanging people by the end of it? You know, I have no idea. But yeah, if I ever become supernaturally ill and this is the cure, I think I'll probably just have to die or live with my withered arm, because I don't think I have a way to fulfill this either. Casterbridge, the county town, was 12 or 15 miles off, and though in those days, when men were executed for horse stealing, arson, and burglary, an assize seldom passed without a hanging, it was not likely that she could get access to the body of the criminal unaided. Yeah, I guess you can't. I guess even then you're probably not supposed to just walk in and be like, hey, can I ask a favor? And the fear of her husband's anger made her reluctant to breathe a word of Trendle's suggestion to him or to anybody about him. Yeah, I mean, it's just a weird, kind of bothersome thing to have to do all around. She did nothing for months and patiently bore her disfigurement as before, but her woman's nature, craving for renewed love through the medium of renewed beauty, she was but 25, was ever stimulating her to try what, at any rate, could hardly do her any harm. I mean, I don't like that remark about woman's nature, but also, I get it. Yeah, I don't know. I would probably have to do. I will have to do some unpacking of my feelings on that one. What came by a spell will go by a spell, surely, she would say. Whenever her imagination pictured the act, she shrank in terror from the possibility of it. Fair. Then the words of the conjurer, "It will turn your blood," were seen to be capable of a scientific no less than ghastly interpretation. The mastering desire returned and urged her on again. So I guess by turn your blood, I mean, on the one hand, yeah, that would turn your blood to touch a hanged man. in sort of the uneasy, supernatural, spooky sense. But I guess, also turn your blood around, not turn your blood around literally, but turn around your blood and fix your disfigurement. There was at this time but one county paper, and that her husband only occasionally borrowed. But old-fashioned days had old-fashioned means, and news was extensively conveyed by word of mouth from market to market or from fair to fair, so that whenever such an event as an execution was about to take place, few within a radius of 20 miles were ignorant of the coming sight, and, so far as Holmstoke was concerned, some enthusiasts had been known to walk all the way to Casterbridge and back in one day, solely to witness the spectacle. That's a bit of a grim hobby. So I'm leaning against the closet door, and I can't figure out how... I can't decide if I'm uncomfortable or not. I also keep thinking that the camera's leaning, but I'm not sure. The next assizes were in March, and when Gertrude Lodge heard that they had been held, she inquired stealthily at the inn as to the result as soon as she could find opportunity. She was, however, too late. The time at which the sentences were to be carried out had arrived, and to make the journey and obtain permission at such short notice required at least her husband's assistance. She dared not tell him, for she had found by delicate experiment that these smoldering village beliefs made him furious if mentioned, partly because he half entertained them himself. It was therefore necessary to wait for another opportunity. Yeah, we hate in others that which we see in ourselves. Her determination received a fillip from learning. It's Philip, F-I-L-L-I-P. I don't know that word. I'll look that up later. Fun. Further learning. From learning that 2 epileptic children had attended from this very village of Holmstoke many years before, with beneficial results, though the experiment had been strongly condemned by the neighboring clergy. April, May, June passed, and it is no overstatement to say that by the end of the last month, Gertrude well nigh longed for the death of a fellow creature. Instead of her formal prayers each night, her unconscious prayer was, "Oh Lord, hang some guilty or innocent person soon." Okay, that's maybe a bridge too far there, Gertrude. So I'm just wondering about this line about epileptic children. And I think what the story is saying, that 2 epileptic children tried this cure and were cured, and that makes her more hopeful and I guess desperate. But don't be praying for innocent people to be hanged. That's not cool. This time she made earlier inquiries and was altogether more systematic in her proceedings. Moreover, the season was summer, between the haymaking and the harvest, and in the leisure thus afforded him, her husband had been holiday-taking away from home. Just left her behind, I guess. The assizes were in July, and she went to the inn as before. There was to be one execution, only one, for arson. Her greatest problem was not how to get to Casterbridge, but what means she should adopt for obtaining admission to the jail. Though access for such purposes had formerly never been denied, the custom had fallen into desuetude, and in contemplating her possible difficulties, she was again almost driven to fall back upon her husband. But on sounding him about the assizes, he was so uncommunicative, so more than usually cold, that she did not proceed, and decided that whatever she did, she would do alone. But he doesn't like trials, I guess. Fortune, obdurate hereto, showed her unexpected favor. On the Thursday before the Saturday fixed for the execution, Lodge remarked to her that he was going away from home for another day or 2 on business at a fair, and he was sorry he could not take her with him. Yeah, I don't know if I believe that bit about him having business at the fair. We know Buddy's got a wandering eye and wandering hands. It was now her turn. She at first had thought of driving, but on reflection held that driving would not do, since it would necessitate her keeping to the turnpike road, and so increase by tenfold the risk of her ghastly errand being found out. She decided to ride and avoid the beaten track, notwithstanding that in her husband's stables there was no animal just at present which by any stretch of imagination could be considered a lady's mount, in spite of his promise before marriage to always keep a mare for her. What a dick. He had, however, many cart horses, fine ones of their kind, and among the rest was a serviceable creature, an equine Amazon, with a back as broad as a sofa, on which Gertrude had occasionally taken an airing when unwell. This horse she chose. On Friday afternoon, one of the men brought it round. She was dressed, and before going down looked at her shriveled arm. "Ah," she said to it, "if it had not been for you, this terrible ordeal would have been saved me." Yeah, she's definitely feeling it, isn't she? The burden of this disfigurement and being married to a man who clearly values looks above all else. When strapping up the bundle in which she carried a few articles of clothing, she took occasion to say to the servant, "I take these in case I should not get back tonight from the person I am going to visit. Don't be alarmed if I am not in by 10, and close up the house as usual. I shall be home tomorrow for certain." She meant then to privately tell her husband the deed accomplished was not like the deed projected. He would almost certainly forgive her. Well. And then the pretty, palpitating Gertrude Lodge went from her husband's homestead, but though her goal was Casterbridge, she did not take the direct route thither through Stickleford. Oh, that's a great name. Stickleford. It's even fun to say. As soon as she was out of sight, however, she turned to the left, by a road which led to Egdon, and on entering the heath, wheeled round and set out in the true course, due westerly. A more private way down the country could not be imagined, and as to direction, she had merely to keep her horse's head to a point a little to the right of the sun. She knew that she would light upon some furze cutter or cottager of some sort from time to time, from which she might correct her bearing. Though the date was comparatively recent, Egdon was a much less fragmentary character than now. The attempts, successful and otherwise, at cultivation on the lower slopes, which intrude and break up the original heath into small detached heaths, had not been carried far. Enclosure acts had not taken effect, and the banks and fences which now exclude the cattle of those villagers who formerly enjoyed rights of commonage thereon, and the carts of those who had Turbary privileges, which kept them in firing all the year round, were not erected. Okay, so we got a little bit about the acts of enclosure there. It just means that Gertrude's way is a little more backroads. Gertrude, therefore, rode along with no other obstacles than the prickly furze bushes, the mats of heather, the white water courses, and the natural steeps and declivities of the ground. It actually sounds very pastoral and pretty. Her horse was sure, if heavy-footed and slow, and though a draught animal, was easy-paced. Had it been otherwise, she was not a woman who could have ventured to ride over such a bit of country with a half-dead arm. So she's got a really good horse, and and the horse is the reason she can ride. It was therefore nearly 8 o'clock when she drew rein to breathe her bearer on the last outlying high point of heathland towards Casterbridge, previous to leaving Egdon for the cultivated valleys, so she's almost there. She halted before a pool called Rushy Pond, flanked by the ends of 2 hedges. A railing ran through the center of the pond, dividing it in half. Over the railing she saw the low green country, over the green trees the roofs of the town, over the roofs a white flat facade denoting the entrance to the county jail. On the roof of this front, specks were moving about. They seemed to be workmen erecting something. Her flesh crept. She descended slowly and was soon amid cornfields and pastures. In another half hour, when it was almost dusk, Gertrude reached the White Hart, the first inn of the town on that side. I am liking the contrast of sort of the grim sort of unpleasantness, be it supernatural or human in origin, with these very sort of serene countryside images. Little Surprise was excited by her arrival. Farmers' wives rode on horseback then more than they do now, though for that matter, Mrs. Lodge was not imagined to be a wife at all. The innkeeper supposed her some harum-scarum young woman who had come down to attend the hang fair the next day. Ugh. Neither her husband nor herself ever dealt in Casterbridge Market, so that she was unknown. While dismounting, she beheld a crowd of boys standing at the door of the harness maker's shop, just above the inn, looking inside it with deep interest. "What is going on there?" she asked of the ostler. "Making the rope for tomorrow." She throbbed responsively and contracted her arm. "'Tis sold by the inch afterwards," the man continued. "I could get you a bit, miss, for nothing, if you'd like." Oh yeah, this used to be a thing, if you're unaware, these sort of hanging souvenirs. I mean, some people still kind of do it. Murderabilia is a thing for reasons, but humanity has always had this kind of weird fixation on the macabre and a desire to have souvenirs of it, apparently. She hastily repudiated any such wish, all the more from a curious creeping feeling that the condemned wretch's destiny was becoming interwoven with her own, and having engaged a room for the night, sat down to think. Up to this time she had formed but the vaguest notions about her means of obtaining access to the prison. The words of the cunning man returned to her mind. He had implied that she should use her beauty, impaired though it was, as a pass-key. In her inexperience she knew little about jail functionaries. She had heard of a high sheriff and an under sheriff, but dimly only. She knew, however, that there must be a hangman, and to the hangman she determined to apply. Yeah, I mean, why not? Go straight to the source. So, Chapter 8, A Waterside Hermit. At this date, and for several years after, there was a hangman to almost every jail. Gertrude found, on inquiry, that the Casterbridge official dwelt in a lonely cottage by a deep, slow river flowing under a cliff on which the prison buildings were situated, the stream being the self-same one, though she did not know it, which watered the Stickleford and Homestoke meads lower down in its course. I love that word, Stickleford. That's such a good word. Having changed her dress, and before she had eaten or drunk, for she could not take ease till she had ascertained some particulars, I know that feeling, Gertrude pursued her way by a path along the waterside to the cottage indicated. Passing thus the outskirts of the jail, she discerned on the level roof over the gateway 3 rectangular lines against the sky, where the specks had been moving in her distant view. She recognized what the erection was and passed quickly on, so it's the scaffold. Another 100 yards brought her to the executioner's house, which a boy pointed out. It stood close to the same stream and was hard by a weir, the waters of which emitted a steady roar. Oh, pardon me, my back. While she stood hesitating, the door opened, and an old man came forth, shading a candle with one hand. Locking the door on the outside, he turned to a flight of wooden steps fixed against the end of the cottage and began to ascend them, this being evidently the staircase to his bedroom. External staircase sounds uncomfortable and vaguely dangerous. What if it's like raining or snowing? Gertrude hastened forward, but by the time she reached the foot of the ladder, he was at the top. She called to him loudly enough to be heard above the roar of the weir. He looked down and said, "What do you want here?" "To speak to you a minute." The candlelight, such as it was, fell upon her imploring, pale, upturned face, and Davies, as the hangman was called, backed down the ladder. "I was just going to bed," he said, "early to bed and early to rise. But I don't mind stopping a minute for such a one as you. Come into the house." He opened the door and preceded her to the room within. Ugh. This is the potential to go badly wrong. The implements of his daily work, which was that of a jobbing gardener, stood in a corner, and seeing probable that she looked rural, he said, "If you want me to undertake country work, I can't come, for I never leave Casterbridge for gentle nor simple, not I. My real calling is officer of justice," he added formally. Yes, that's it, tomorrow. Ah, I thought so. Well, what's the matter about that? 'Tis no use to come here about the knot. Folks do come continually, but I tell 'em one knot is as merciful as another if you keep it under the ear. Is the unfortunate man a relation, or, I should say perhaps, looking at her dress, a person who's been in your employ? No. What time is the execution? The same as usual, 12 o'clock, or as soon after as the London mail coach gets in. We always wait for it in case of a reprieve. Oh, a reprieve? I hope not, she said involuntarily. Okay, conversation just between a pair of weirdos. Not weirdos, but it is kind of a funny, odd conversation in all manner of ways. Well, as a matter of business, so do I, but still, if ever a young fellow deserved to be let off, this one does. Only just turned 18, and only present by chance when the rick was fired. Howsomever, there's not much risk of that, as they are obligated to make an example of him, there having been so much destruction of property that way lately. Well, here's something to think about, Gertrude. Jesus Christ. I mean, she explained, that I want to touch him for a charm, a cure of an affliction by the advice of a man who has proved the virtue of the remedy. Okay, so she just told the hangman. I guess you'd have to, though. I mean, otherwise, there'd be no way around it, I guess. Oh, yes, miss, now I understand. I've had such people come in past years, but it didn't strike me that you looked of a sort to require blood turning. What's the complaint? The wrong kind for this, I'll be bound. My arm. She reluctantly showed him the withered skin. Ah, 'tis all a scram, said the hangman, examining it. Yes, said she. So all a scram, I'm assuming all a scramble, all messed up. Well, he continued with interest, that is the class of subject, I'm bound to admit. I like the look of the place. It is as suitable for the cure as any I ever saw. 'Twas a knowing man that sent he, whoever he was. You can contrive... Okay, let's get this positioned. There we go. Sorry about that. Good? Yeah, should still be good. The camera apparently overheated, so I'll hopefully be able to put the two videos together relatively seamlessly. I think I've fixed the issue, so we shall see. Okay, now, I like the look of the place. It is as suitable for the cure as any I ever saw. 'Twas a knowing man that sent he, whoever he was. You can contrive for me all that's necessary, she said breathlessly. You should really have gone to the governor of the jail and your doctor with ye and given your name and address. That's how it used to be done. I like that there's an established bureaucratic process for engaging in the folk remedy of touching a hanged man's arm to cure what's wrong with you. That's how it used to be done, if I recollect. Still, perhaps I can manage it for a trifling fee. Oh, thank you. I would rather do it this way, as I should like it kept private. Lover not to know, eh? No, husband. Aha. Very well, I'll get you a touch of the corpse. Where is it now? She said, shuddering. It? He, you mean. He's living yet, just inside that little small window up there in the glum. He signified the jail on the cliff above. She thought of her husband and her friends. Yes, of course, she said. And how am I to proceed? He took her to the door. Now, do you be waiting at that little wicket in the wall that you'll find up there in the lane, not later than 1 o'clock. I will open it from the inside, and I shan't come home to dinner till he's cut down. Good night. Be punctual, and if you don't want anybody to know ever, wear a veil. Ah, once I had such a daughter as you. She went away and climbed the path above to assure herself that she would be able to find the wicket next day. Its outline was soon visible to her, a narrow opening in the outer wall of the prison precincts. The steep was so great, the steep, yeah, okay, I thought it was a step. No, steep, right the first time. The steep was so great that, having reached the wicket, she stopped a moment to breathe, and looking back upon the waterside cot, saw the hangman again ascending his outdoor staircase. He entered the loft or chamber to which it led, and in a few minutes extinguished his light. The town clock struck 10, and she returned to the White Hart as she had come. And that is the end of chapter 8 in The Withered Arm. So I hope you've been enjoying. It's a pretty good story. Thank you for spending some time with me here on the channel. And until we have the chance to hang out again, I hope you and your loved ones are safe and well. And I'll see you again here real soon. So goodbye, folks.